Here's how to get over someone in 5 minutes if they won't reach out after you broke up with them. And then that becomes the question in your mind. Why won't they reach out after I broke up with them? That is cognitive distortion number 16, focusing on what you do not have and cannot control. As a general rule, you should never focus on something you cannot control. So you must make a rule for yourself. I do not focus on what I cannot control and do not have. Done. Plain and simple. Once you recognize this in that category, it's easier to detach from it. This is also a detrimental question. Why won't they reach out? It's detrimental because, one, you can't actually get the answer to this question. Two, even if you had the answer, it wouldn't actually help you. It would probably make you feel more sad or more confused and upset, or just leave you with no answers. Like, it would basically come down to either they don't want to reach out, which is probably what you're assuming and probably what's making this feel so painful for you, or it's that in some way, shape, or form, they don't know that that's what you want them to do, and then that's why they're not reaching out, which really doesn't solve the problem either, because the fact that they don't know that that's what you want them to do isn't really a good sign. And even if you forgive it and say, oh, you just didn't know that that's what I wanted you to do, that doesn't really solve everything, does it? Because it's not like you can say, well, since you didn't know, we can get back together now. Because the original reason why you broke up with them is still not solved, regardless of whether or not they are not reaching out because they don't want to or because they didn't know. We haven't solved the original issue of why you broke up with them. There was a reason you walked away. And so until that original issue is solved, it's not like you can get back together anyhow. So recognize that this is a detrimental question, and instead you need to ask yourself a propitious question, which is a fancy term for a beneficial question, a question that's actually going to help you, help your mind. When we ask things that are detrimental, like why me, that just spirals us. It doesn't help us to feel better. So we have to ask propitious questions. In this case, here's what you would ask. Why am I going to be amazing regardless of whether or not they reach out? Why am I going to be amazing regardless of whether I ever know why they didn't reach out? When you give your mind a propitious question, it helps your mind to refocus and not ruminate on the old way of thinking, but to start to solve a new problem, because the mind is designed to solve problems. So you got to give it a good problem to solve. Why am I going to be amazing is better than why are they not doing something? Does that make sense? Next, you got to look at the perception. Your perception is detrimental here. It's a perception, something like, oh, he's not reaching out, but that means he doesn't really care about me. That means that he's not making an effort toward me. If he's not making an effort, he doesn't see me as worth making an effort toward. You see how that's a detrimental perception? So we need to switch this to a beneficial perception. So here's a better one. This proves, the fact that he won't reach out to me, this proves that he's not my person. See how that's so much better? Repeat that to yourself. Meditate on that. And find evidence to support it. This proves that he's not my person, because in reality, he's actually disqualified from being your person, because one of your qualifications is that the person has to love you and make the effort when the going gets tough and not give up on the relationship, right? Finally, in a world of friends and enemies, ask yourself, does his most recent actions constitute him as my ally or more so my enemy? If I were just to judge by his most recent actions, does that constitute him as my ally or as my enemy? And you might notice that he's not showing that care, he's not showing that concern that an ally, that a true friend would show. He's showing that neglect, that lack of concern, that lack of regard for you. He may have even done things that were to your detriment. And that shows that he's your enemy. When you regard someone as your enemy, it's a lot easier to detach. So try all these things, watch the video again, write them down, meditate on that, and then let me know in the comments, guys, how this helped you.